early because we are getting intermittent icy weather, which means a little bit of snow, a little bit of rain, and when it happens like this, sometimes the power lines have a little bit of issue. So I want to get this crafting chat done before anything potentially happens. And just welcome to the Kalari's Crafting Chat. I'm your host, Kalari GXC. I'm about to get the word out on socials, and then we're going to get this started, whether the chat fills up or not. Honestly speaking, at the way I'm feeling, I don't care if it fills up today because I've got a lot to get off my chest. We're going to be painting Sir Bunnicus Hopper here. He is one of my steampunk creations. I've got a whole line of these coming out. I included a mouse, a wolf, a squirrel, and I believe a raccoon character. Yes. So I'm looking forward to that. I've made these with Tripo Studios. They have been a lot of fun. Matter of fact, well, he's being a little wobbly. There we go. Because I have him on paper towel so that the paint doesn't get everywhere. Let me get the art reference up for everybody, and then we are going to just jump right into this because I have a lot to say about the last few days. And after trying to go back to social media regularly, going on both Spoutable and Blue Sky, I can already say there's a marked difference between the two social media sites. When I want just peace and sharing fun stuff, I hang out on on Spoutable because there's not a lot of the bullshit that I'm seeing on Blue Sky right now. Though I am going to stay on Blue Sky right now because it feels like voices of sanity, even though technically I'm not, are needed right now. And I'm going to get to why as we get Sir Bunnicus here prepped. Love his whiskers. One of the things that I am noticing big time are these people who profit off of suffering, they profit off of dissent, and they wanted to run with the narrative that Dems cave. Dems and whole allegedly caved to these people. The problem I have with this narrative is you are putting the whole party on the backs of 8 people who they don't really have to worry about re-election. Tim Kaine doesn't come up for re-election next year. John Fetterman thinks he's safe, but he's not. Several others are going to retire. But that's beyond the point because some of you assholes are out here using this as an excuse to attack Speaker, the Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who is not Speaker of the House, does not have control of the Senate, and is not in charge of what happened with these votes on the Senate floor. But you got really bad character actors who really bank on American ignorance to our own checks and balances and our own systems. And some of you fell right into line. And I'm not talking about those of you who are just like, I just want the right to express my disappointment. Go the fuck off if you want. That's your right. If you want to express disappointment in the party that's the only one holding the line against Republican fuckery, you go right ahead and do all that. Nobody can stop you from feeling a certain way. But a lot of us warned you what was at stake last year, and a lot of you didn't take it seriously. And now you've got this one note about the ACA, when what the heck was we supposed to do? This was the longest shutdown in American history. All the cover, what I'm going to bring up in a few minutes with Anonymous's help, about not releasing the Epstein files and lists. But the whole reason why these 8 senators felt they even had to do something this desperate and potentially dangerous to their careers and legacies was because there were troops in Germany that had to beg for food from German hosts because it is not legal for Germany to use social programs to help visiting foreign troops because they don't want double dipping happening. But because the shutdown allowed us to not pay our overseas troops, our troops had to rely on the kindness of host countries to take care of them. And I think it's frustrating that people want to ignore that. The fact that there were hundreds of thousands of government employees not getting a paycheck, laid off, furloughed, not sure if they even had a job to come back to, and living off whatever savings they might have had, with the very real possibility that they were going to be evicted from their homes, if not outright homeless. Then you add SNAP beneficiaries and recipients who were having to go without because this country would rather see them starve as collateral damage, because to use it's just a game. To use, the real life consequences of this doesn't matter. No, I thought it was using. I am using the gold paint. And nope, I was not using the gold paint. I was wondering why this gold was so light. But getting back to my talk, as I try to fix the fact that I wasn't using the actual gold, I was just using the brown. People acted like it was just about the ACA. No, we warned you that the Republicans were trying to gut the ACA, also known as Obamacare, for years now. They had so many of you assured that yous would be all right even if they did this, and now you're seeing premiums are going to go up. But what people don't understand, and what's failed to be reported in the whole noise that, oh, Democrats just caved, or what they actually got put forth when they went along and said, okay, look, we don't like this big, beautiful bill anymore. Yous are really trying to use this to gut and destroy ACA, aka Obamacare. So, what can we do to get this temporary stopgap so that people can get paid, American citizens don't have to starve, and they won't shut down our airports during the busiest holiday of the year? Because I need to remind you yet again that Trump wanted to nuclear all of this, including during one of the busiest seasons for our airlines, not paying air traffic controllers and making it where airport personnel, period, wouldn't be able to work, thus delaying and canceling flights. Some of you act like it was only about the ACA. Some of you don't even realize how insidious this all was. But you don't care because it's only about your comfort. It's only about your premiums. I've seen horror stories online of people telling those who are lamenting that they don't have it right now. Jobs are not out there for these people to just go and get. They are literally on bent to the will of this corrupt administration without paychecks. Some of them still having to go into work without being paid, or risking honestly losing their job. And some of you who knew what was on the ballot last year and didn't vote accordingly are some of the loudest against this party that is trying to keep our heads above water. And you play right into the Republicans' control. This is why Mike Johnson, in all his ineptitude, thinks that the Republican Party will be okay throughout this. Even with the historical losses they faced on Tuesday, they're not scared because they knew that ending this shutdown was a no-win situation for the Democrats. Even though they got things like the transgender affirmative care bans that the right were trying very hard to push taken off, even though they also were able to secure scoring against a national referendum against women's right to choose when it comes to abortions, they're still leaving it up to individual states and protecting those of us in states with senators and governors that give a damn about women's health and rights. Some of you only want to parrot the bad and use help these people who want to keep us in a fascist regime in charge. You don't care about the fallout. You don't care about the suffering citizens, the moms out there who have to judge whether or not they can feed their family this month, the people who are working without pay, who don't even know if that even matters. Because eventually, it's going to come down to if you're loyal enough to Trump and his ilk. Some of you have shown that you have no compassion and empathy, but what can I expect from the 53% and the 60+% of you who went against sanity and stability last year to vote this nonsense in? Yous are loud, yous are wrong, and all of you talk about, oh, I'm going to quit the Dem Party. I'm going to go independent. Playing into some of the kiddie table of politics people's nonsense, too. Oh, they want to burn it down for their weird revolution that they can't explain who will pay for it. They want to act like one New York City contest for mayor is their path to actual revolution without putting in the work to actually fund and run coalitions to get people to vote. This is why I laugh at those of you who have no real skin in this game of politics, who don't politically invest yourself, who only use social media as your way of staying informed, and yet will still parrot the same dumbass talking points that get us in this mess in the first place. And some of your faves are even the worst culprits to this because they make their money, they get their clicks, they sell their books off of your outrage at the party who is literally holding the line. They could have easily looked up what was actually at stake. They could have easily just said, look, it sucks that healthcare is even on the line. But we all warned you last year with Project 2025 what these fuckers were after, and some of you did not care. Some of you continued on as if you wouldn't be personally affected. And now, like I said in the thread, Carol, who couldn't be bothered to take the 5 minutes she would waste on the Starbucks line getting an overpriced pumpkin spice drink for the holidays, who has to hold her nose or be motivated off her couch, or the Kevins out there who think, well, I'm white enough to be safe from this fallout. Even though these tariffs are making my business float under, my neighbors are going to lose their farms and everything else, I got to bank on my identity keeping me safe through this. Now on here talking about, well, I was for the Democrats at first, but, they caved, so, they're no better than the other side, and we should all go independent. You don't think it's insidious that after people voted to save millions of Americans from not being paid, not starving during the holidays, and not shutting down the airports, that all of these character actors came out of the woodwork to decry the party that's been holding the line? You don't think it's insidious and coordinated at this point? You're not paying attention and you don't understand the assignment still. Some of you are just willing to participate. And it's even people that I normally like and respect that have fallen right into this trap. This is why Mike Johnson and the Republicans, no matter how much they screw us over, can grin because they know that there are enough of yous that take one defeat in the face of so many other losses that they help prevent with this, that are talking about, oh, the Dems are weak. We need fighters. Once again, I had a whole thread again about those of you who want cult of personalities but act like you don't. You just want people you can have beers with. You want a wrestling match instead of nice, boring, stable politics. You are part of the problem. And you don't like hearing you're part of the problem. That's why you bother people in their mentions about, oh no, I voted this way all my life. I'm a 74-year-old. And I feel like I'm a DEI even though I'm a white woman. The amount of shit I put up with the last couple of days coming back to social media on Blue Sky was eye-opening but not surprising. The not alls, the I'm just like you black people, I'm just like the brown people who are being rounded up, I'm like the families who have to deal with their 1-year-olds getting tear gassed in the face by ICE terrorists. But you're not, because you vote sometimes. You don't go after your family members that willingly put us into this tyranny. You break bread with them. Our holidays, once again, are going to be a peaceful, quiet affair with kiddo, my husband, and I, because honestly speaking, I'm not in the mood to sit across from people who literally turn their eyes away from the bad because they still think they're somehow going to benefit from all this chaos. I don't care how this makes me sound. I am not in the mood to kumbaya with literal people who can watch children, families, and other American citizens suffer because they don't feel directly impacted by it. These are part of the problem. And why are the Republicans fighting so hard against common sense of not shutting down our government over a bill that they could easily get together and negotiate for good, bad, better, or worse. They won't do it. Well, I have this video by Anonymous, and I'm going to get fired up to show you exactly why they're behaving this way and why we don't need to give them any kind of favor, any kind of currying. We need to make sure that what happened on Tuesday happens again next year, and any time a Republican seat comes up for re-election, that they know, that we know they are the ones that shut this government down and why. So let's get this fired up by Anonymous, because I am beyond pissed at those of you who played right into these bad faith actors, little bots, and all of these weirdo rando people who are like, yeah, Democrats are bad. You give the Republicans the confidence they need to screw over and pretty much kill our democracy. But let's get this fired up, because I'm already pissed off enough.
And when power hides behind sealed files, tonight we bring you the truth, the one story that terrifies those who built their empires on lies and bodies. The nightmare they feared has arrived. The Epstein files are real. They are worse than anyone imagined, and Donald Trump's name is buried deep inside them. What's inside them?
Any of you surprised? I know I'm not.
Those files is beyond disgusting. According to multiple sources, what FBI agents found when reviewing them left even the most hardened investigators in shock. Hours of videos, photos, and testimonies documenting yacht parties, modeling auditions, and massages involving clearly underage girls. Countless photos of powerful men, some well-known, others hidden behind titles and wealth. The kind of men who believe laws are written for others. And yes, Trump's name appears repeatedly in the logs, communications, and visual evidence. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel reportedly warned him about it back in May. They told him that the files could destroy careers, collapse alliances, and ignite outrage that could...
Which it should. It totally should do all of those things, because these are child predators. The pictures, the photos, they do not lie. Even the ones that were semi-released when Epstein was first arrested show clearly underage girls in positions, sexual lives, that should not have gone on. But some people want to still act brand new to this literal child trafficking ring that went on with social, political, and royal elites.
Could burn through the entire mega structure. As the government shutdown nears its end, a quiet bomb is ticking in the halls of Congress. Adelita Grijalva, the newly elected Democratic Congresswoman from Arizona's 7th District, is about to become the 218th signature on a discharge petition that will trigger a House vote to release the Epstein files. That single act could force daylight onto years of sealed darkness. It is the moment Trump and his allies have fought to prevent, the moment that breaks open their pedo protection program, a network of MAGA loyalists shielding traffickers, suppressing victims, and gaslighting the public.
Exactly. I think people need to understand that this is why he didn't care about citizens starving. He didn't care about our troops not getting paid. He has really wealthy people all in his pockets that he did not want their names getting out there. Because not everybody's going to pull like the British royal family. Oh, we'll just strip his titles and give him a house in the country. We'll just put Andrew out to pasture, even though he's caught dead to rights being a predator. No, there are going to be people who are very anti-minors being trafficked who are going to call for the blood of these people. And Trump and his ilk should be scared when this comes to light.
Think about it, the same Republicans who scream about protecting children from imaginary classroom conspiracies have spent years protecting real predators. They talk about faith, family, and freedom while covering up the ugliest crimes imaginable. What they have built is not a political movement. It is a shield for corruption. Reporters from Midas Touch Network and independent journalists like David Schuster and Allison Gill have confirmed through multiple DOJ and FBI contacts that the Epstein files are far worse than anything previously rumored. Schuster's sources said several GOP House members were already briefed and privately terrified about what's coming. Gill's sources described hours and hours of videos of yacht parties, photo shoots and massages of clearly underage models, and countless
Gross.
pictures of men, some recognizable, many unknown, with underage girls.
One source described hours and hours of videos of yacht parties and photo shoots and massages of clearly underage models, countless pictures of men unknown to them. I asked. They said they didn't recognize many of them. With photos of them with nude underage girls and models. Videos, just hours and hours.
These weren't isolated images or rumors. They were organized evidence collections, cross-referenced with witness statements, transaction records, and travel manifests. Agents who reviewed the material were reportedly kept under lockdown, forbidden to leave the building until they finished their reviews. Some broke down in tears, especially those with children the same age as the victims. Some were survivors of abuse themselves, forced to look into the darkest corners of power.
And that's the part that I don't think people understand as this is discussed. That when you've gone through that, or you are a parent of a child that age, it is human nature to feel disgusted, to feel broken that so many people could betray the trust of people that young. So many people who claim to be elite simply because they're wealth hoarders could literally get away with harming our most vulnerable. And yet, the Trump regime, led by Mike Johnson, wanted to protect predators over our kids. This is insidious. And this is why he had all the power to keep our government closed down, because he did not want, and he still does not want, this list to be released. And they have a lot of incentive to fight against this list being released because they want to protect predators. The GOP are the party of protecting predators.
This wasn't an investigation. It was trauma disguised as duty. And it's no coincidence that after these discoveries, Trump's allies started pushing disinformation campaigns about fake Epstein lists and fabricated photos. They wanted to drown the truth in noise, because they know what happens when the public sees the real thing. Meanwhile, Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted sex trafficker who...
One in this part is going to make you mad, because I can't believe this is going on. I can't believe anybody can literally justify this nonsense. But we are literally in the ninth circle of hell.
Once recruited and groomed Epstein's victims is living comfortably inside a minimum security facility at Camp Ryan, Texas. She was moved there under Trump's watch, despite Bureau of Prisons policies that forbid sex offenders from entering such facilities. Her leaked emails describe her time there as much happier, safer, and more comfortable than before.
Which is not what somebody convicted of trafficking and abusing children should ever be able to say, but this is the hell we are in right now. She is comfortable, even though she abused children. She is feeling safe, even though those girls under her never felt safe. This is what happens when you let a ruthless dictator with ties to a pedophile ring take power.
She compared her transfer to falling through Alice in Wonderland's looking glass. Gross. Imagine that. While millions of Americans struggle to afford food and health care, Trump's friend, a convicted trafficker, writes from a cozy federal resort, smiling in privilege. Other inmates say she gets her meals hand-delivered, enjoys private workout time, and can contact the warden directly whenever she wants.
Ridiculous.
Prisoners who dare to speak about her treatment are punished or transferred to harsher facilities. The warden, Dr. Tanisha Hall, has reportedly been helping Maxwell and her attorneys exchange documents and emails.
And the bad thing is her name sounds way too fucking close to mine. I already hate it. But I remind you, once again, not all skin folk are kinfolk. And she probably got a little bit of a kickback, allegedly, whatever, about taking in this fucking sex trafficker who abused young girls. And she should be ashamed of herself. And when the chips fall and this administration is gone, you're going to go down too, Miss Hall.
Bypassing restrictions that apply to everyone else. Congressman Jamie Raskin wrote a letter accusing the Bureau of Prisons and the Trump administration of actively covering up the sex trafficking conspiracy and retaliating against anyone who exposes it. That's not justice. That's a state-run protection racket. But the corruption doesn't stop there. Within the sealed evidence are emails between Epstein and world leaders, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, African oligarchs, and Western billionaires arranging deals to sell surveillance systems and military technology. Epstein used his access as blackmail material and his money to connect defense corporations with dictators, often laundering transactions through shell companies. He was a middleman in the global machinery of exploitation.
Even that current rat bastard that looks like an extra from Better Call Saul, Ronak, or whatever the fuck his name is, he said, as a former neighbor of Epstein, he knew the 411 about how he would get people like this. How once you were in, they would get you in compromising situations and keep record of it so that you had to work with him. So all of these world leaders, oligarchs, and others who are on this list are scared because he wasn't lying. He said, once you join, once you go to this island, they got you. And some of you didn't believe it. And because you've helped get this fucking wannabe despot elected, you thought you was going to be able to protect yourselves forever. But it's not like that. Because Trump is just as deep in this sauce as so many others of you. And when that light shines on your misdeeds, I hope you all pay for the crimes you've committed against innocent, especially innocent young girls. Because too many still don't care about the literal trafficking rings that go on around the world involving our kids.
And Trump's name keeps surfacing in that orbit, from Mar-a-Lago guest lists to private flight logs. Among the most disturbing revelations are statements by witnesses describing Epstein bragging that he had insurance photos and videos of Trump with girls too young to explain away. Journalist Michael Wolff first reported these claims years ago, but now multiple congressional sources have confirmed that the files contain evidence consistent with those descriptions. During Senate questioning, when Senator Whitehouse asked Pam Bondi directly whether she had seen such photos, she refused to answer.
Because she's his talking piece. Like South Park did with the poop on her face, she is definitely, Sharon knows, is very up his ass.
Not deny, refuse. Trump's defenders in Congress, the same ones who block every motion to release the files, have turned the House of Representatives into a fortress of silence. Over 100 Republicans are rumored to have already seen or been briefed on the files and are quietly preparing to vote yes on their release, not because of conscience, but because they want to get ahead of the public outrage that's coming. NBC's exclusive report showed Ghislaine Maxwell's own words, "The institution at Camp Bryan is run in an orderly fashion. I feel safe and much happier here."
You should not feel safe anywhere. You should have went out the way your partner did. I'm not even going to be nice about this. Predators do not deserve to stay breathing. And the fact of the matter is, she is getting cushier treatment than even some of Trump's voters, who are struggling this holiday season to keep up with all the whiplash of this administration. But that's what happens when you elect somebody who is convicted of 34 felonies, including hush money for sex crimes.
She even joked about the kitchen being clean, free of possums fallen from the ceiling. This woman trafficked children, and Trump made sure she lived in comfort. Other inmates fear even mentioning her name, knowing it could get them shipped to brutal facilities like FDC Houston. Congressman Raskin's letter detailed one case. Julie Howell, an inmate who spoke to the Daily Telegraph, expressing anger that a convicted sex trafficker was housed among nonviolent offenders. Within days, Howell was punished, removed from a training program, and transferred to a harsher prison. The message was clear: stay silent or suffer. Even the warden held a meeting warning inmates that talking to the press about Maxwell would bring consequences. This isn't bureaucracy. It's complicity. Every move Trump makes now reeks of panic. He calls the Epstein investigation a Democrat hoax. He dismisses the outrage as sordid but boring. He says his supporters shouldn't waste time on old stories. But it's not old. It's active. It's ongoing. The Justice Department, under his influence, shut down internal reviews, blocked subpoenas, and buried evidence that could have led to prosecutions. And why? Because his name appears in too many places in flight logs, guest books, photographs, and coded correspondence. The released fragments of those documents already connect Epstein's network to Trump's circle, billionaires' fundraisers, and advisors who profited from defense contracts, data surveillance deals, and overseas operations disguised as charitable foundations. The deeper journalists dig, the clearer it becomes that Epstein's ring wasn't just about sexual abuse. It was a currency of control, and Trump's empire was one of its biggest beneficiaries.
Yep.
What they've been hiding for years is not just moral rot, it's geopolitical rot. It's influence for sale, traded through blackmail and access. And as this story explodes, the hypocrisy becomes unbearable. MAGA leaders cry about child trafficking at the border while protecting the traffickers among themselves.
Exactly.
They talk about saving the children while mocking the survivors who dared to testify. They call their rallies patriotic, while their idols hide behind sealed evidence of predation. But this time the cracks are showing. Congressional Democrats are pushing for full declassification. Whistleblowers inside the DOJ are leaking details anonymously to protect themselves. And international media outlets from London to Tel Aviv are starting to connect the dots that U.S. mainstream networks refuse to touch. The walls of secrecy are shaking. Epstein may be dead, but the machine he built, the one that bought silence with fear and comforted the guilty with power, still operates. And at the center of it stands a man who used to be president of the United States, pretending he knows nothing. But the people know better. We know what we've seen. We know what's been buried. And we know that every lie has an expiration date. Donald Trump's nightmare has arrived. The files he tried to hide are surfacing. The witnesses he ignored are speaking. The officials who protected him are being subpoenaed. And the victims who were silenced are finding their voices again. This is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of accountability. If you are watching this, do not look away. Share this. Speak this. Demand your representatives sign the petition to release the Epstein files. Demand hearings. Demand truth. Refuse to be gaslit into silence. We are anonymous. We see the corruption. We stand with the survivors. We stand with justice. The nightmare Trump feared is no longer coming. It is here. And together we will make sure the truth cannot be buried again.
And that was Anonymous, who I have to thank, even though I will say some of their videos was pulling the same, oh, these people betrayed us. The nuances of what has been going on in our government is not for those who don't have basic civics lessons. And I can tell the difference between the people who are just expressing frustration with the 8 Democratic senators who voted against keeping our government shut down, even though they had valid reasons to do this, versus those who are using this to now attack Speaker Jeffries, who is just a minority House Speaker for the Democrats, who has no control over our Senate. When you agree with people you don't know on the internet, that somebody who has absolutely zero vested interest in how 8 senators have voted, has no way to stop those 8 senators from voting against this, but does have the power, once the House is called back into session, to get the 218 signatures needed to release this pedophile's rings, detailed and documented files. You know you're doing the Republicans' dirty work for them. You know that you're giving predators a pass, and some of you don't care. Some of you only want to bitch about the ACA and healthcare premiums. Let me tell you something. There are a lot of us that are going to be affected by this healthcare nonsense. You don't see us getting mad at the thought of families eating. You don't see us getting mad at the thought of federal employees getting their paychecks. But you do see us saying that every election matters. Every lapse in your right to vote has consequences. Every single one of you had the power to prevent what's going on now. When we warned you about Project 2025, and some of you arrogantly told us, you should just be a hyperbolic. You don't know what you're talking about. It's not going to be that bad. And we, in his first fucking year of a second term presidency that shouldn't have happened, already had the longest shutdown in American history. All because he does not want that list released. All because his corruption will be laid bare. His predator behavior laid bare. To those of us who already knew this shit was coming, we're not surprised. But anybody who defends this after those files are released, after we finally force Speaker Johnson to do his damn job and reopen the House so that we can call the vote, get Miss Grijalva sworn in, which he should have been done, we are going to see an onslaught of evil just opened up because Trump and his ilk are the party that protects predators. I am beyond pissed that it had to get to this point. And I will never stop saying that it is on those yous who decided not to be politically invested. Yous are the reason why we're dealing with this shit. And I don't care if it makes you feel a certain way to hear that constantly. You had the keys to our democracy in your hands, and you let an 80-year-old toddler, with ties to a daggone child trafficking ring, led by his former bestie, who is now pushing up worms, take control and try to cover up this dirty stuff. You should feel ashamed of yourself. For all those victims still trying to seek justice for what they went through on Epstein Island. You should feel sick to your stomach that you turned the other way from these girls' plights. But I'm not shocked by some of you, because you still wave those slogans. Not a lot. We went into town this weekend because we're getting winter weather up here, just to get more supplies and hunker down just in case. And when I tell you the amount of people that know they voted for this shit, bitching about the prices of stuff, bitching about anything, it wasn't shocking. It just makes me side-eye because you want to yell at these people. How did you vote? Who did you vote for? And what right do you think you have voting this in to bitch about anything that you self-inflicted on yourself? They don't learn, though. They don't self-reflect. They don't have introspection on how their vote put us all in this darkness. They think they'll be all right no matter what because people like them often don't suffer the consequences of their actions. Look at all those January 6 offenders who he pardoned, who are re-offending because they think, well, he let me go before. This convict president has my back. And the sad thing is how many of them are right. This man will protect predators. He will protect violent criminals if they support him. He'll support a Binance guy who literally built American people and people outside this country for millions of dollars. And then when asked about it, well, I didn't even know the guy. But you used your power as the president to pardon him. This is the fuck shit you put us in just so that you can call people the N-word. Because you can't convince me anymore that it wasn't the racism that guided a lot of you fuckers to support this administration. Not even administration, regime. And you aren't fooling anybody as you now disguise yourself as liberals and get on here blaming Schumer for 8 people who said, you know what, I might not have skin in this game directly because I'm not running for re-election or I'm not up for re-election. But we don't want to see people starve. We don't want to see the airport shut down. We have a chance to protect trans citizens from the GOP's outright trying to ban their health care. We have a way to protect women who are in states not affected by weird abortion laws. We're going to take this chance even if it makes them hate us. That's the reality that our media, who's owned by Trump's friends, aren't going to tell you. That's the reality that some of your favorites who get prosperity when politics are shitty won't tell you, because it's all a game to some of these people. And welcome to the chat, Red Baron. I think what really upsets me the worst about what's going on currently with the shutdown, with the people calling the 8 senators that voted to open us back up traitors, is how many of you don't even really have skin in this game. You're not going without food. You're not a government employee not getting paid. You don't have family members who are troops that got told by the army that you will have to rely on the resources of the countries you are in because we don't have money for you. All the while pretending on this day, Veterans Day of all days, that you give a damn. I just showed this picture, let me get it up, on social media, Because every Veterans Day, I like to remind people that I am the daughter and granddaughter of actual veterans, of people who literally fought for our country. This is a letter from President Carter to my grandfather for his service in the Korean War. I watched a good YouTube documentary about that war, and I think it was an iceberg, and they explained the reasoning for the Korean War because the Un family are fucking psychos. My grandfather risked life and limb for a country that back then still had Jim Crow laws. My other grandfather, Arthur, who fought in World War II, who never, ever glorified the war. He was 18 years old when he got sent over there. Was in a foxhole, bombs raining down around him, and all he did was pray to God, if you get me out of this, if you let me go home alive, I will devote myself to God. And he did, as a minister, which is crazy. I almost dug this up, and I might still do a compilation of that young lady who was literally calling churches all last week in a social experiment, asking them for help during this shutdown where mothers couldn't get their WIC or SNAP benefits for a can of formula. And how many churches who don't pay taxes, mind you, turned her away. But mosque, black churches were willing to pay out of pocket. A Catholic church ran by Spanish people who are in the most danger right now in this country because of ICE terrorists were willing to come out of pocket to help a stranger whose baby allegedly did not have food. But these other mega churches and beyond, they had nothing to say to this woman. They told her, oh, you got to go to other resources. We don't have it. Or even worse, we only have it for our parishioners. My grandfather kept a pantry for needy people in the community and beyond. It didn't matter if you were a member of the church. You got food. You got coats if you needed them. You got a place to stay if it was winter. He converted the whole bottom basement with cots and everything just in case so that people wouldn't freeze to death. Because I don't know if you notice about the boroughs, but we're surrounded by water. So winters hit a bit harsher there. It boggles my mind that we went from churches like my grandfather's to this current shit show of weird prosperity pastors who have more money than they should but can't help their communities and beyond. And having grandfathers who were vets of these wars, it boggles my mind how people don't understand that having an administration that uses our troops as props instead of the defense force they are supposed to be for our nation and beyond is infuriating. And if you hear my voice and feel like I feel about our troops not being paid, not being fed, having to rely, Germany literally had to scramble and told America, you're going to pay us back because we are not allowed to give your troops social services and collect money for them because we could be accused of helping another country who's already supposed to be paying their troops, and it would be double dipping. It's a NATO rule. But Germany, not wanting to see American soldiers on bases in their country go without, raised $1,200 to make sure that our troops didn't starve. You should be ashamed of yourself, Trump. But he has no shame. As he went and had a great Gatsby glitter and gold party where a little bit of partying won't kill nobody, as people are literally starving. As because we had a lack of air traffic controllers, it still might, because this bill has to go to the House, which Mike Johnson still hasn't convened yet. Without proper air traffic control, without proper staff, airline flights are risk it if you can right now. Trump doesn't care. He went to that abysmal Washington Commander game, which our Lions, go Lions, kicked their ass 44-22 and got booed. Not only did he get booed, but people see the juxtaposition of Americans struggling to feed their families, to get paid, to just survive with the looming fact that our premiums are going to go up into the hundreds, knocking us from payments that were affordable to payments that are going to make us not see doctors anymore. Right now, I am weighing because I still have appointments coming up. Is it going to be worth it? And should I get this all done before next year before I say, fuck it, I'll take my chances not getting sick. Just avoid people because I don't want to have to pay out of pocket extremely high copays because this idiot administration gutted everything. I'm telling you right now, some of you don't care that elections have consequences. Some of you don't care, and you fall right in the line with the fuckery of this administration and beyond, thinking that you can, I don't know, just get through all of this, that you are somehow special and protected from all of this, when he has shown that people in red states don't matter. If you suffer and starve without SNAP, who cares? You should pull yourself up by your bootstraps. He's got these weird TikTok influencers telling you that it's your fault that even with a working job, the price of food being too high is your fault. They tried to run with the narrow-minded stereotypes of only black women being on food stamps, without the reality that 36% of the demographic that most benefits from this are white Americans. And I'm telling you, as somebody who had to get on WIC when I had my son, who had to get on assistance while I was going to school when he was little, these programs don't give you a lot. That's why I blinked a couple of weeks back when I did that little clip of these white women going on about getting $800 and $900 in food stamp benefits. I'm like, did stuff change over the years? Because shit is, I know it's expensive, but that's a lot of money. You could do a lot with $900 in food stamps. My monthly budget with 2 grown men and myself does not go over $400. I buy produce, both fresh and frozen. I buy meats. I have things like flour and rice because I know how to bake and cook. I shopped smart since the pandemic because you never know when stuff is going to hit the fan again, especially after last year's presidential election. So I've always been of the mindset to plan. Plus, I grew up with the generation that survived the Great Depression. So I knew having extra bags of rice, having pounds of flour, having sugar and other stuff readily available because you don't know if you're going to be able to get bread, and it might not be bread lines. Right now, there's countless news stories about food bank lines stretching, people being turned away because food banks were running out. So when I say some of these people that are getting that much, depending on how the size of their family, because if you have a lot of kids, $900 may not stretch that well. And processed foods, unfortunately, are cheaper. But if you knew, since the pandemic, since Trump's first term that screwed our country over, how bad it could potentially be, you were already shopping smart. People like myself, people like Aja, the Brat on social media, and several others were telling you what to buy, how to shop to survive this stuff. Some of you called us hyperbolic. Some of you didn't want to listen. Then you changed your tune when we left Twitter for Blue Sky, thinking we don't remember some of you that question us, telling you how to survive this disgusting administration's antics. And now a lot of you are struggling. A lot of you are wondering how you're going to survive this. And while I want to truly feel sorry for you, all of this was preventable. All it took was political investment in yourself and beyond yourselves. To understand that, yes, we don't always get what we want in the world of politics, especially when we don't have the majority in the House, the Senate, or Supreme Court. But we can at least try to save who we can, like these 8 senators did for trans health care and for women who are in states that do not have standing abortion bans. For the air traffic controllers, the federal employees, and the troops who were not getting paid. For the 40 plus Americans, 42 million, in fact, million Americans who quite literally were going to go without food because this administration didn't want to fund SNAP. In fact, he literally used his stacked Supreme Court to do an injunction when federal lower court said you need to fund this money. You're supposed to have the backup for this money. And now you got the fucker promising a $2K stimulus check from the tariffs that we literally pay. And I still keep saying, why don't we have this backup money for federal SNAP? Why was he so eager to not pay these benefits that the USDA was supposed to have in backup in case of emergency? And we know why. The $300 million ballroom that he still isn't paying the contractors properly for. The hundreds of shady deals that we have seen and the ones we haven't seen yet. He has misappropriated American funds, and some of you are turning a blind eye to it because you still want to chant the slogan that he is going to make us great again when you know he's not. He is only going to ingratiate himself, enrich him and his family, and then bounce when he can with as much American dollars as he can, while the value still has been completely tanked by his idiocy. When I said it on Blue Sky, if I see any of you fuckers, if he manages to do this, which I don't think he does because his party does not like giving out freebies, does not like giving out money, had to fight Nancy Pelosi when we got the original stimulus check almost 4 years ago under his presidency, where he made her put his name on letters, even though he did not want to give that $1,400 stimulus check to anybody. If you dare try to celebrate this farce of an administration's idea of giving a little bit of pittance to you in the guise of a terrorist stimulus check, I'm going to place a curse on y'all. I don't care anymore. I am going all out with my anger because some of you fuckers are out here literally acting like $2,000 is enough to look away from the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars being misappropriated by Donald Trump, his family, and anybody who is currently favored by them. Some of you have literally handed the keys to our country over to a thief and then cry about things being taken from us. Cry about things being lost that didn't have to be lost. But you couldn't stand the fact that a smart black and Indian American woman who had a law, economics background, and who gave a fuck about us wanted to lead us into stability and prosperity that, whether you liked him or not, we had under President Joe Biden. Some of you made those Sleepy Joe comments, still do, while President nods a lot, looking like a daggone rigor mortis model, falls asleep in the middle of press conferences now, rambles, dodders, and looks like he's about to drop any moment. You aren't fooling anybody. Yous are all about your side, even though your side is whole ass wrong and you know it. And that is why I don't fuck with you, and I don't fuck with any supposed Dems. A lot of yous with questionable avatars, a lot of yous from the demographic that put us in this place in the first place, talking nonsense about how yous aren't gonna be Dems anymore. Bye. You didn't help us anyway. Your demographic always votes against all of our best interests. So why should we cry if you allegedly leave the party? The poll numbers don't lie, even on Tuesday last week, on how you will vote, who you will vote for. The exit polls don't lie. Some of you would rather get in our mentions calling us divisive again, like we haven't heard this nonsense before. Talking about, well, not all of us, enough of you at damn near 50% for white women, 60% for white men said, you know what? We know what he's doing is evil and corrupt, but we're still gonna vote for his cronies in states that really could use grown-ups run this stuff, like Virginia, like New Jersey. Some of you really played yourself and get mad when the exit poll numbers show how much you will foot soldier for fuckery. You get mad at the wrong people. You should get mad looking in the mirror. Because some of you don't care about security and stability. You think you're displaced millionaires and billionaires. And you deserve stuff like Trump. And when he leaves you hanging out to dry, when he drains every resource we have, when he shows you constantly that he is legitimately the swamp he said he was going to drain, when he let that Doge, apartheid edgelord, fucking now trillionaire, bilk us for millions upon almost billions of dollars, which is negatively impacting people in Africa under the USAID. 600,000 dead already, a large majority of them children. I want you to remember we know who you are. And no amount of calling us divisive, no amount of trying to kumbaya, and then in one breath saying, we're not voting Dems anymore when we know you fuckers don't, is going to change our minds about you. Like I said, I had to start this up early. It is starting to come down. I don't know how long the internet and stuff will hold out because it's been spotty all day because of this weather. Red Baron, thank you for sitting in. Friday will be a longer format. And I'm still planning to try to bring the YouTube lives back on Saturdays. But with the snow, it has been snowing up here, coming down, getting supplies was way more important. Next Saturday, I'm hoping I've got a whole bunch of C dramas on a file that I want to load up and watch and commentate with yous on. I also want to answer some questions from people to get yous out of my face about things because I'm tired of that nonsense too. But I do hope to be back on Friday and then on Saturday on YouTube so that we can just have a fun weekend. D&D was a lot of fun on Sunday. Thank you again, Red Baron, and everybody that sat in on that. The lag is finally starting to let up now that the Halloween event is gone. But we got a Christmas event coming up, and my Static Guild group will be on no matter what. But I am going to wrap this up early. I will see you on Friday. Thank you for letting me get this out of my system because watching so many alleged liberals saying that they are now jumping ship, that the Democrats are weak without understanding the nuances of what went down and why this shutdown had to end is infuriating but not surprising. And I'm going to stay on you. If you are going to primary them, you need to make sure the Dem primarying them knows what they're doing and wants to do the job. Let's get serious about who represents us because we don't need rock stars or wrestlers. We need people who are going to legislate. And normal legislation is fucking boring. And if you don't want that kind of government, you keep wanting this chaos, don't complain when we lose everything. But I am Kalari. I will finish Sir Bunnicus and have the finished product to show off either Friday or Saturday, depending. Thank you all for watching, and I will definitely see you next week.